Shalom, Izzy here with Holy Language Institute at holylanguage.com. Welcome to this little series talking about problems with sacred name teachings. In this one we're going to talk about how these teachings make false accusations against Jews and Christians. This is going to be our shortest discussion in the series, but it's very serious. We already talked about how sacred name teachings say that if you don't try to pronounce God's name, you're sinning. Let's talk about that a little more, because it's actually an accusation. And a very serious one at that. Really, like the Jewish people. Have the Jewish people been breaking the Torah for the last couple thousand years by saying Adonai instead of saying God's name? Likewise, are hundreds of millions of sincere Christians offending God daily by calling him Lord? You know, the Jehovah's Witnesses would say the answer to these questions is yes. Really, the Jehovah's Witness organization, it's a sacred name organization. It's a sacred name movement. Jehovah's Witnesses Bibles are sacred name Bibles. Are they right? When they come to your door and tell you that you're offending Jehovah by calling him Lord? Okay, they don't say that right off the bat, but that's what they believe. The answer is no. The answer to all these questions is no. We already established the historical fact that Yeshua and the apostles said Adonai instead of using God's name. So the Jewish people are right to practice this reverent tradition. Similarly, the body of Christ around the world is right to follow this Jewish tradition by using the English equivalent of Adonai. So, contrary to common accusations in the sacred name movement, there's no evil conspiracy of the rabbis to get God's people to forget his name. The church doesn't have a secret agenda either to trick people into calling on a false god by saying Lord. And you are not sinning because you don't try to pronounce God's name, even though sacred name teachings would tell you that you are. What a relief. Humor aside, though, this is a big deal because we know who the accuser is. Satan is called the accuser of the brethren in Revelation 12:10. Like, that's all he does 24/7. He makes accusations against God's people. So, when you hear sacred name teachings making false accusations like this against your Jewish and Christian brothers and sisters, doesn't it make you wonder where that's coming from? This is one of the big reasons I recommend that you stay away from sacred name Bibles, and it probably goes without saying sacred name teachings. They're like gateway drugs. Like, they seem harmless and even good. I mean, it is the Bible after all, right? And it even has some Hebrew in it. But you don't realize how deep the rabbit hole goes. Unless you're a serious student of biblical languages and history, you probably won't pick up on the poison. And please don't take that as an insult. Before you know it, you may even find yourself spreading these false accusations and becoming an unwitting voice for the enemy. And I did share a tiny bit of my story in the introduction to these little talks, and I shared with you how when I first started coming back to my own Jewish heritage, I got a sacred name Bible, and I came across some sacred name teachings, and for a while they messed me up, and I did. I even found myself spreading these false accusations, and I became an unwitting voice for the enemy. So I'm not saying this in an accusatory way. I'm saying this as someone who has been there and done that, and thankfully was saved from it. So, speaking of bizarre, if that wasn't bizarre enough for you, there are other bizarre accusations sacred name teachings make. For instance, they say that the word God is pagan, and that people who use it are actually calling on a pagan deity. They also say that the name Jesus means horrible things in the original Greek. I'll demolish these false teachings in my individual reviews of specific sacred name Bibles. For now, hopefully it'll suffice to just warn you to stay away from the Kool-Aid. So just because the sacred name Bible has the word Bible on it, or scriptures or whatever, listen, it doesn't mean it's safe, okay? These Bibles are based on false teachings. In our next talk, I'll show you how sacred name teachings and their underlying accusations always cause fights and divisions. Join me for that. Dun dun dun!